Good morning. Welcome to Walking Boxing. It is Monday, April 14th, 2025. And I've done it again. I put the hoodie on today. Said it wasn't too warm. Well, it was about 13 or 14. I thought, is that hoodie weather or not? I played it safe for putting a hoodie on. And as you can probably believe, it's bloody hot and I'm sweating in this hoodie at the moment, but I can't take it off because I've got my hands full. I've got a phone in one hand, a camera in another, and Neil in there as well, so I'm not going to carry a hoodie as well. Anyway, plenty of stuff going on the weekend with the boxing, the UFC, Ennis and Ennis, and we had the Volk winning is it the featherweight title? I think it is. All the weights are all over the place in the UFC. What's the featherweight? I think it's like the welterweight equivalent to us, but we'll have a quick chat about that as well. I know it's walking boxing, but I think we've got to acknowledge the great man, Alex Volkanovski. Again, UFC is not really my thing, but we'll have a bit of a chat about that anyway. All right, on this day, lots actually happened on this day, but we'll go through the main ones. 1997. Now, this was a guy that we should be familiar with here in Australia, Daniel Zaragoza, the great Mexican. Now, if you remember, he fought Jeff Fenech back in 1986, I think it was. And strangely, it was for no titles, a non-title fight, which is really strange because I'm pretty sure he'd won a world title before fighting Jeff and won a world title after fighting Jeff. And Jeff was pretty active at this stage, fighting regularly and defending that IBF bantamweight title. But for some reason, this was gauged as put up as a non-title fight, which doesn't make sense. I'm pretty sure that was in Perth. But yeah, and I think, actually, this is the other strange thing about it. I actually think that Daniel Zaragoza was probably the best fighter that Jeff actually fought at bantamweight. And it just happened to be for no belt. But anyway, only promoters and maybe Jeff know that. I'll have to ask him one day why it wasn't for the title. Because Daniel Zaragoza, as says here, 11 years after he actually lost to Jeff, he's here winning this fight against Japanese fighter Joishiro Tatsuyoshi. That was for the WBC bantamweight title. That was in Japan. So in 1997, that was 2000. Mexico's Guti Espadas Jr. defeated Filipino Luisito Espinoza. Technical decision over 11 rounds in Mexico for the WBC featherweight title. In 2001, we'll all know this guy, Bernard Hopkins defeated Keith Holmes over 12 rounds on points. That fight took place in New York for the WBC middleweight title. And in 2007, on the same card, it looks like this is, Mexico's Edgar Sosa won the WBC light flyweight title with a win over Brian Valoria. And I actually had the pleasure of meeting Brian Valoria once. It was at the Wild Card in LA where he was training. A really, really nice guy. It was before the Superfly show they did in 2017. Now, on the main event on that card was Chocolatito, and it was the tie that knocked him out, and knocked him out again that night, actually. And I remember on the undercard, I think Quadros fought Estrada on that night, and there was, I think, Inoue fought there as well. Some great fights on there that night. But yeah, on this day in 2007, he lost to Edgar Sosa. Then on the same night, Mexico's Christian Mejares defeated fellow Mexican Jorge Arce for the WBC super flyweight title. Now, I actually sort of met, I did meet him, Jorge Arce once in Las Vegas. He fought at Caesar's Palace, and I can't remember, he didn't fight at Caesar's Palace. I saw him at Caesar's Palace. I can't remember who he fought on that show, but I was at Caesar's Palace having a bit of lunch. Probably knowing me, it wouldn't have been a big lunch. It would have been a coffee and a muffin or something like that. It's all I sort of eat during the day. And I looked over right beside me actually, and there is Jorge Arce enjoying his lunch. And look, I'm not really one for photos and autographs and all that sort of stuff, but I just sort of said, "G'day, how you doing?" and shook his hand, and he was really polite. He's just having a quiet lunch with his trainer or manager, whoever it was. And yeah, really, really nice guy. And obviously remember the fights he had with Hussein from those, I'm just trying to think what years they were. Anyway, doesn't matter, but two great wars with Hussey. And actually there was one other thing on this day. Ruslan Shagayev won the WBA heavyweight title with a win over Nikolay Valuev. Now, he's the giant, I think, wasn't he? The big giant from memory. And he also, Shagev was the one that Lucas Brown actually knocked out. I think that was in 2016, that one. So that's what happened on this day. Now, we'll quickly go over the UFC. Again, this is not walking UFC, it's walking boxing, but I think we have to acknowledge Alex Volkanovski's win. Really happy for him, 36 years of age. I thought he fought so well, and it probably brings me back to my point that I've always been on about, is that in my opinion, the best UFC fighters are the ones that can actually use their hands as well. You sort of see a lot of the UFC fighters, and look, I know there's lots of arts they have to master, and boxing's just one of them. But I've always wondered why they put so much emphasis on other arts and not with the hands, and not just with the hands or what it comes with it. It's with the balance and the footwork and the shifting of body weight. I've never really seen any UFC fighters, bar maybe 3 or 4, that are really good with their hands. Now, there'll be the argument that they don't need their hands, because if they do the good jiu-jitsu or grappling or wrestling or whatever it is, and the kicks, then they don't need the hands. That's fine. That's great in a perfect world. But to utilise all those arts, I think you've still got to have the basics of boxing there with that balance and footwork. And I thought yesterday, the Volk, he did all that so well. I think I was a little bit puzzled at the start why he was moving to his right, but it was obviously because they were weary of Lopez's big right hand. But I just thought his poise, again, his balance, footwork, his jab was really good. And I think really set up all the other stuff. And you notice he didn't really do a lot other than the boxing. It was a little bit of the grappling and that sort of stuff, and a few kicks. But overall, he really relied on the boxing. And Lopez was actually pretty good at the boxing as well. Come here, buddy. Let's go across the road. And he was tough, mate. He was tough. He was a tough boy. He took some big punches. Not so sure about the hairstyle. He should have lost a round just on principle, really, with that hairdo. But yeah, look, I enjoyed it. Again, UFC is not my thing, but we had it on at the pub, and we had actually a really good crowd. And it's not easy. I've sort of learned it's not easy, sort of dragging people away from where they usually go and watch the fights. We're only a brand new venue, of course, only been open 6 or 7 weeks. But we had a good crowd yesterday, and they enjoyed it. And it was really good when they played the Down Under when Volk came out. The joint was pumping, and he really gets the crowd up and about, and it was really good. And even the crowd in the pub were up and about. I of course cranked the music up, and it was a great atmosphere. And everyone applauded and cheered and everything else while the fight was going on. It was a really good day actually. And then in the main support, was it Paddy? Is it Paddy the Batty, whatever his name is? I liked him. He was good. He's got some personality. And as I say, personality goes a long way. Come here, man. But could he be the next Conor McGregor? He's got all the personality in the world. He can obviously fight. Apparently, he's not the most popular guy out there. I don't know. Again, I don't really follow it. But I've done a bit of research. I got home yesterday and I sort of followed him on social media, and he's an entertaining guy, make no mistake about that. I did mind him. Yeah, look forward to seeing a bit more of him over the journey. And apparently the guy who beat Michael Chandler was a good opponent, a little bit over the hill, but it was entertaining anyway. But for Volk, I did see he's got a cooking show as well on YouTube, so I followed that as well. So maybe, you never know, I might become a UFC fan down the track, you never know. But for Volk, let's hope he gets another couple of paydays. 36 years of age, and as again, I thought he boxed really well and smart. This is the thing that I've sort of taken away from the UFC. You have to be smart. If you go out there and you're full of bravado, and you get a bit ahead of yourself, or you put the foot down a little early, you really leave yourself open to getting caught either with a kick or an elbow or something like that. It's a dangerous sport. But I thought, Volkanovski, he was patient, boxed, moved, picked his punches, really good jab, and that's what set the whole thing up. So, again, I know I'm on my soapbox about the UFC with they should spend more time on boxing, and I'll stick by that because, again, they always say if a good wrestler or jiu-jitsu or whatever or fighter, whatever they are, gets hold of a boxer, it's all over. Well, good luck if the fighters or the boxers got good footwork and good hands. You've got to get near him. But anyway, that's an argument for another day. The Stanionis and Boots Ennis fight. I only watched the main fight. I didn't watch the undercard because, again, I was at the pub. Good performance by Boots Ennis. I thought I did give Stanionis a sort of fleeting sort of chance, but I think Jaron Boots Ennis really highlighted that he's a very, very good fighter. I was surprised they stopped the fight as early as they did, but he was copying a lot of punches, wasn't he? I thought he started well. The interesting thing was, I think it was the 5th round. Stanionis actually had his best round. I thought he won the round and actually caught Boots with some good punches and looked like he was really getting into the fight. Boots Ennis, of course, was really good earlier in the fight. And, you know, he looked slick and, you know, he's really good timing of his punches and looked really good. And then I thought Stanionis really picked it up. Then in the 6th round, Ennis sort of steadied the ship and landed a few. I think the key too was he started to go to the body really well, and Stanionis really wasn't prepared for that. But as much as I think, look, end of the day, as they say, it's always good to stop it a round too early than a round too late. But I was surprised. Unification fight. You know, he's got his WBA belt on the line, and he's just pretty much handed it to Boots Ennis. I don't know. I'm not so sure a lot of the old-time fighters would really agree with that. I think a lot of them would be horrified that he's given up his belt on the stool. But again, I know it's a different age these days, but I was surprised. Yes, he was taking some punches, but I don't think, and he did go down, I know that, but it wasn't like he was really, you know, really rocked and when he got knocked down, he was hurt. I don't know. I'm not the one in there, so now it's hard to sort of comment, but I was really surprised that, yeah, as I said, he sat on his stool and they stopped the fight. I know the corner probably were the ones that stopped it, but there wasn't a lot of argument, was there? So anyway, that's his call, but I thought he actually fought quite well. But Boots Ennis, it's an interesting one where he goes to. I'm still not sure what to make of him. He looked good yesterday. I get that. He did everything he was supposed to, but for me, there's still something missing. I still think that if he if he fights someone like a Terence Crawford, which doesn't look like it's going to happen now, does it? I mean, Bud's got a lot of other things on his plate these days, rather than worrying about a welterweight. Although Boots Ennis does look like he's ready to go up to 154. There you go, buddy. In you go. In you go. I'll just stay here for a sec and finish this episode. Running a little bit ahead of schedule today. I didn't get a chance to start this video until well into the walk, but yeah, look, it's an interesting one. I just think that he looks the goods, but we haven't really seen him in a real quality fight yet, and not that there's many out there for him. I mean, who is there to fight? There is maybe Barrios. I don't think Barrios comes anywhere near him. Brian Norman's obviously the other one they're talking about, but you know, already Brian Norman's priced himself out of the fight according to Team Ennis. I think he wanted 2.2 million. I think they said to fight next, and now apparently that's gone up after yesterday's fight. But yeah, I'm not sure Brian Norman's in a position to really push his weight around and dictate what he should be getting paid. I think that'd be a really good fight, but I think in this instance, Jaron Ennis purely 100% is the A side. So I think he should take the money while it's there. But I think if it's not Brian Norman, then what does he do? Does he go up to 154? Does he maybe wait and see if a Ryan Garcia or Devin Haney wants to come up in weight? That's probably the next thing. Maybe a Teofimo Lopez. But he apparently did do the weight pretty hard. So maybe, look, I would say if I was in the camp of Jaron Boots Ennis, it would be, all right, if we can't get the Norman fight and Garcia and Haney and Lopez are all sort of doing their thing at 140 at the moment, I think it'd be a great time to move up to 154. Plenty of opportunities there, plenty of great fights. And if he's going to be fit and strong and healthy at 154, well, why not do it? I don't understand why these days these guys stay at 147 or any weight for that matter, when they really struggle to make the weight. It's only probably a 3 kilo jump, 6 pound or 7 pound, whatever it is. I don't understand why they just kill themselves when 3 kilos these days is not much in the scheme of things. But anyway, and the big fights there for Boots. the big money fights. I mean, Brian Norman's not going to be a big money fight. And yeah, he beats Brian Norman, that's great. Even if he beats Barrios and becomes undisputed, it's not like it's Leonard beating Hearns here, is it? They're not exactly household names, Norman and Barrios. So yeah, I don't know. I think if Barrios and particularly Norman are going to sort of carry on with outrageous purse demands and all this sort of stuff, just move on. Move up to 154 and just get on with it, because there's plenty of great fights there for him. What else what happened over the weekend? Briggs, Shannon Briggs. That's what I've got here. I've got Briggs versus maybe McCall or Wilder. Shannon Briggs. There's talk that he is going to come back at the age of 53, and they're talking about Oliver McCall being the opponent. He's had, I think, had 2 fights in his comeback, but they're also maybe talking about fighting Deontay Wilder, which will be entertaining, wouldn't it? Briggs and Wilder, just it's whoever lands first in that one, isn't it? And I think Wilder's got bigger things on his plate at the moment, hasn't he? He's got to get through his comeback first. I was going to actually mention, I watched I read an interview with Larry Holmes over the weekend. It might be a topic of another episode, but he was mentioning it was a good sit down. And one thing you'll see about Larry Holmes is he's always been straight down the line. He never pulls his punches, excuse the pun. Always tells it the way it is. Remember the infamous line about Rocky Marciano that he couldn't carry his jockstrap? That was after he lost to Michael Spinks. But put all that aside, and he's actually a very knowledgeable guy and tells it, the way it needs to be said. He doesn't sugarcoat it, is probably what I'm trying to say. And they did an interview and they said about today's trainers, and he said, well, back then they asked him about who his best trainers were, and such was great. And he said, look, they weren't great. He said, I was great. He said, apart from, because he worked with Eddie Futch there for a while, he worked with Ray Arcel, I think, as well, and he rated those guys as great. But his main trainer over the journey was a guy named Richie Giachetti. And he was with him for all this time, and the reporter said, must have been great training under the great Richie Giachetti. So he wasn't great. He did what I told him to do. He was there, he was great in the corner for a bit of motivation, but I was the one in there, and I taught myself, and I learnt myself and practiced different stuff. And he said, I was the trainer in the corner. I was the great trainer. But he also made the point that he said that in this day and age, in his opinion, there are no great trainers. He said Freddie Roach doesn't rate Freddie Roach. Who are the others that he said? I can't remember who he said, but he just said, I think he just used Freddie Roach as an example, actually, of today's trainers. He said that, well, everyone puts Freddie Roach up there on a pedestal, so I don't rate him either. And it was really interesting. I sort of tend to agree, not with the Freddie Roach thing, by the way, because I do think he's a great trainer, but that in this day and age, there's a lot of trainers, but not a lot of coaches. And I see particularly at sort of amateur level, I mean, I'm here in Australia, I see a fair bit of it, but I'm sure it happens all over the world, where it's all about, you got to do those flash pad routines, and you got to do this and do that and all the razzmatazz stuff. And they get them conditioned well, and they, they might teach them the basics, but they don't coach them. They're not always learning. They get them fit, they get them strong, they do the flashy pad routines, they make weight, they get in there and away they go. But there's not a lot of coaches, and there's a big difference between a trainer and a coach. And that's probably where I'm getting at. I do agree that there's probably more trainers these days than actual coaches. The real, like the Emmanuel, this is at the top level, the Emmanuel Stewarts of the world, the Eddie Futches of the world, these types of guys. And as Larry said himself, Ray Arcel, who trained Roberto Duran, amongst others as well. So many great trainers. And look, the intentions of them are great, and you've got different levels of coaches. I get that. But I just think these days the emphasis is more on just getting them fit, doing those pad routines and everything else, and just not coaching them. And I think the closest one I would see these days, I would hope that would get into coaching, is actually Floyd Mayweather Jr. And if you watch him, he does some videos on social media and a few other bits and pieces, and you watch him, he's about the basics and the way he uses his jab and his little different routines that he does. I think Floyd Mayweather would be a great coach. The only issue I'd probably see with Floyd Mayweather, you'd have to have a specific type of fighter, because he tends to teach or coach or train so that they pretty much fight like he did. And of course, we can't all be Floyd Mayweather Jr., can we? So, but I think his overall philosophy on boxing is spot on. And of course, one of the greatest fighters of all time. And I just think his mindset and the way he looks to work with fighters is that he would be a really good coach and not just a trainer. And now I do disagree with on one hand too with Larry about Freddie Roach. I think I've seen him in action myself. He's a very, very good coach, not just a trainer. I really rate the likes of Robert Garcia as well. Virgil Hunter is another one. But look, each to their own, I suppose. There's lots of different definitions of what is a good coach, trainer, whatever it might be. But that's just my opinion anyway. But it was just interesting to hear someone like Larry Holmes have his opinion and say that in his opinion these days, there's not that many good trainers or coaches out there. So just a topic that, again, we might sort of touch on another day in another episode. But that's it for today. I know it's not the most exciting one. Not that much happening at the moment. We need these Canelo and Ryan Garcia fights to sort of come about. Tim Tszyu, Sam Goodman's coming up as well. Lots of fights happening, but just at the moment, just a little bit of a lull. So we'll keep at it. Have a great Monday. We'll catch you tomorrow.